expecting that one. Yeah, they're just it's just so great. This is why it's so nice to not have Meghan on.
5 minutes ago, a quiet storage facility in California unlocked a unit linked to Meghan Markle, revealing not memorabilia or furniture, but evidence of a plan years in the making evidence, now sending shockwaves through royal circles as the monarchy braces for fallout. Just after 6:30 a.m. on November 29th, beneath California's muted winter dawn, a single phone call triggered a chain of events neither coast was prepared to absorb. The call came from an unassuming storage facility near Montecito, a place usually defined by anonymity, not scandal, where a manager of more than 20 years and used to controversy contacted a legal representative overseeing a court-ordered inventory check with an uncharacteristically tense message. The unit had been opened, and immediate attention was required. Within 40 minutes, 2 unmarked vehicles arrived on the fog-damp gravel, followed by a third with tinted windows, carrying an individual later, confirmed to have ties to a high-level private security firm frequently employed by celebrity clients. The unit itself had been rented nearly 4 years earlier, shortly after Meghan and Harry relocated to California, remaining largely inactive and accessed only sporadically during late-night or early morning hours, raising no public suspicion despite long-standing concern within palace circles. From the earliest days of the Sussexes' departure, rumours had quietly persisted that Meghan had retained materials from a time within the royal household, not merely personal items, but objects capable of reshaping narratives, reviving scandals, or exposing long-concealed tensions. As the metal door lifted and harsh fluorescent light spilled across the concrete floor, rumour gave way to reality in the form of heavy boxes, labelled and unlabelled, including at least 5 marked in thick black ink with dates from 2018, 2019, and early 2020, the period when everything changed for both the Sussexes and the monarchy. By 7 a.m., word began circulating through powerful private channels from Los Angeles to London, reaching Buckingham Palace, where a senior advisor paused over a flagged alert reading simply, "California unit opened." Preliminary contents significant. The term was rarely used unless implications were profound. Within minutes, the message reached Kensington Palace, where Prince William's private secretary forwarded it directly to the Prince of Wales, who halted mid-briefing, his expression hardening as he asked not what had been found, but how long they had before someone else discovered it. Charles had just finished his early morning briefings when a senior advisor approached with the news, and the king, wearied by weeks of strained internal dynamics, closed his eyes briefly before asking what had been found. The advisor hesitated before answering that while details were still emerging, there were documents and recordings, a word that echoed through the room like a warning bell. Almost simultaneously, nearly 5,000 miles away in the Montecito foothills, Meghan was informed as she stood by a kitchen window overlooking the hazy morning landscape. Her reaction was immediate, but restrained a stillness, a deep breath, and a single whispered word, "already," because despite the polished public image she and Harry projected, they had long known this moment could come and had prepared for it, though nothing had prepared them for how quickly it would unfold. By mid-morning, the boxes were being photographed, catalogued, and sealed with quiet urgency by officials keenly aware that every item could reshape not only the Sussex narrative, but the stability of the monarchy itself. And at exactly 9:22 a.m. Pacific time, the first box was opened in complete silence. Inside were neatly arranged leather-bound journals wrapped in archival paper, the top one bearing Meghan's unmistakable looping handwriting winter notes, 2019. The year when fractures began to surface, conversations sharpened, and the institution subtly shifted beneath everyone's feet. The professionals exchanged measured looks, fully aware that journals from that period could contain personal reflections and sensitive accounts of meetings later reduced to brief palace statements. And beneath them lay something even more alarming. An entire row of flash drives, each labelled only with a month and year: January, February, and March 2020, the tense months leading up to the Sussexes' departure. When negotiations intensified, corridors buzzed with whispers. William and Harry were barely speaking, and Charles urged unity as the monarchy braced for impact. Alongside the drives were sealed envelopes embossed with the royal crest, objects never meant to leave official hands, let alone be stored in California, and one bore a handwritten warning: private correspondence. Keep secure, a phrase that instantly elevated the situation from inventory review to crisis. The team lead placed the call within seconds, and London was informed again, this time with sharper language. The initial report had said significant, But this one said urgent. By early afternoon in the United Kingdom, the palace's crisis communications group convened in its underground briefing room. Phones swept, devices removed, doors locked, as the head of communications read aloud the preliminary summary. When he reached the mention of leather-bound journals and royal crest envelopes, the room fell silent. Finally, a senior advisor voiced the fear everyone shared: what if these materials contained private conversations or internal disputes never addressed publicly? And another answered with the truth they all knew. Then the narrative would no longer be theirs to control, shattering the monarchy's long-relied-upon strategy of dignified silence. A realization felt most acutely by Princess, and, when briefed later that afternoon, and listened without interruption, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable, though those who knew her well noticed the subtle tightening of her jaw, a sign of irritation, directed not at Meghan herself, but at the chaos this discovery threatened to unleash. Having weathered decades of royal upheaval, and had seen scandals ignite, fade, and resurface, and she understood how quickly private matters could become public crises. Yet the existence of private documents stored abroad suggested something far more troubling. Intention, planning, a long game. Her first question was blunt: did Harry know? And when the advisor admitted they believed he would soon, and exhaled slowly, as if bracing for impact. Across London, William received his briefing in similarly muted tones, showing neither anger nor surprise. But his private secretary noted the shift in his gaze. Not emotional, but calculating. Because William grasped what this could mean if the journals from those final months contained even a fraction of the privately rumored tension. The monarchy was facing a new winter, one that would not wait for preparation. By mid-morning in California, the second box was opened, and if the first had been concerning, this one was explosive. Inside were meticulously organized folders that went beyond personal archiving and were instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with the palace's internal machinery. These were not merely Meghan's belongings, but palace documents, copies of schedules, meeting summaries, and internal briefing notes, some stamped private, others marked confidential, and several bearing the initials of senior household officials. The inventory team hesitated, uncertain whether to proceed without further authorization, but instructions from the supervising attorney were unequivocal. Catalogue everything, photograph everything, interpret nothing. Still, speculation hung in the air, especially when one thick packet stood out before any folder was opened, labeled Commonwealth Discussions. Winter 2019 Personal Annotations, a phrase that immediately sent alarm through secure channels to London. Winter 2019 had been one of the most tense periods of the Sussex era, marked by private negotiations, shifting expectations, and disagreements over Meghan's evolving role within the Commonwealth Initiative, a project the palace had once hoped she would champion as a bridge between her heritage, global appeal, and the monarchy's long-term vision, but which behind closed doors became a source of friction rather than unity. Now, in a California storage unit, lay records that could reveal who supported her ideas, who resisted them, and who attempted to reshape the narrative entirely. And when the supervising attorney lifted the Commonwealth folder, he did so carefully, as though afraid of what it might unleash, that he placed the folder into a secure case, separate from the others. But what truly altered the atmosphere was what lay beneath the paperwork: a slim black recording device. It was not new or sophisticated, an older model, easy to conceal, easy to overlook, and dangerously easy to underestimate. Stored without batteries, carefully wrapped in cloth, it rested beside a set of labeled USB drives the team had not yet examined, and the handwritten tag beside it read simply, 2019 notations. Not recordings, not transcripts, just notations, a word that caused the room to freeze as everyone grasped what it might imply. Were these voice memos, personal reflections, or the scenario no one dared voice aloud: private palace conversations captured for personal protection? The implication was serious enough that inspection stopped immediately, and a red level alert was sent through legal channels to London, flagging Charles, William, and Princess, and within minutes. Charles received the update first. He had expected bad news, but not recordings, and as he leaned back in his chair, a dull ache settled behind his eyes. The monarchy could survive gossip and headlines it always had, but what it feared were receipts, the kind that confirmed what the public only suspected. His thoughts turned not to anger, but dread. What if Catherine's name appeared? What if conversations he believed private had been preserved? What if moments of conflict the public only guessed at were now documented? Beneath those fears lay a deeper, quieter one he rarely admitted. Had Meghan always felt unsafe within the institution? William's response was characteristically controlled and strategic, shaped by his understanding that recordings, if they existed, could undo years of careful narrative management and ignite the press the moment even a fragment leaked. Princess Anne's reaction, however, was the most telling. When she heard the words recording device, she closed her eyes briefly, steadying herself, knowing from long experience that institutions were not undone by scandal, but by evidence, and her directive was immediate and sharp. Secure everything before someone else does. Yet the most sobering moment came when the California team opened the third box and found something entirely unexpected: several handwritten letters addressed to Meghan from individuals inside the palace. And at the very bottom, a sealed envelope bearing a handwriting everyone recognized at once: Diana's. It was not a letter from her. She had been gone for more than 2 decades, but something tied to her legacy, something preserved, protected, and potentially transformative. For a long moment, no one in the storage unit moved as the third box lay open, its contents spread across the table like fragments of a secret history brought into daylight, the sealed envelope resting among them as the weight of what it represented settled heavily over the room. Curved, elegant, and instantly recognizable to anyone over 50, the handwriting transformed what had already been a troubling discovery into a full-scale crisis. The inventory team froze, acutely aware that they were staring at something that should not, by any logic or protocol, exist in a storage unit in Montecito in late November. Diana's handwriting, addressed simply to Meghan. The supervising attorney approached the envelope with deliberate care, lifting it as though it was something far older, rarer, and more volatile than paper and ink, noting there was no date, no subject line, just a name, and that alone sent shockwaves across the Atlantic faster than any official memorandum could. Within palace walls, it was known that Diana's correspondence had been meticulously archived, tracked, catalogued, and sealed, and for a letter to surface now one the institution had never acknowledged could mean only one thing. Someone had saved it privately, passed it privately, and ensured it reached Meghan. By early afternoon Pacific time, a fourth urgent alert reached Buckingham Palace, where Charles, already shaken by news of recordings, read the briefing in his dim private study as weak winter light cast long shadows across the furniture. When he reached the line referencing a sealed envelope in Diana's hand, he stopped breathing for a moment and whispered a single word: impossible. He knew Diana had been many things: charismatic, defiant, emotional, brilliant, but never careless. If she wrote, it was intentional. If she preserved something, it had purpose, and if she passed something forward, it carried meaning. Sinking into a chair and rubbing the bridge of his nose, Charles looked not frightened, but heartbroken as he murmured, "Not Meghan." Why Meghan? Not as accusation, but as a question weighted with years of unresolved grief, because a letter intended for Meghan complicated everything. The divide between his sons, the monarchy's internal tension, and the public's fractured view of Meghan as either threat or victim. William received the update minutes later, his reaction quieter but unmistakably grim. For Diana's legacy was the one thing he guarded fiercely, and the idea that a private letter from her had circulated beyond palace knowledge, archival protection, and family awareness pierced deeper than duty itself. When the briefing ended, he asked only one question: had Harry seen it? And the answer, no, revealed the storm now forming. Because if the letter reached Meghan after Diana's death, Harry must have been involved or known who was. And if it reached her before he even met her, the implications were staggering. At Windsor, Princess Anne read the summary slowly in her study, the stone fireplace glowing faintly, before setting the paper aside with rare and unmistakable unease, and declaring in a voice edged with steel that whatever was in that letter could not remain in California. Not out of fear of scandal, but out of concern for preservation. For royal archives were the backbone of historical truth, and the only defense against revisionism. In California, however, the reaction was entirely different. When Meghan learned of the discovery, her response was not shock but sorrow, and she asked only one quiet question: had they opened it? And when told they had not, she closed her eyes and released a slow breath, not of relief but of inevitability, because she knew exactly what was inside, and she always had. The California team continued cataloguing the third box, and beneath the envelope in Diana's hand they found letters from senior palace figures, some warm, some cautious, others unreadable in tone, along with notes outlining early press strategies, private reassurances from advisors, and one particularly jarring item, a printed transcript of a phone conversation between 2 palace officials discussing Meghan's public reception during her first months in the family. The final line, "She will need to be managed carefully," sent a chill through the room, because this was no longer a story of a difficult duchess or strained family dynamics, but the emergence of a pattern long suspected, always denied, and now preserved in black and white. One attorney whispered that it was bigger than expected, but he was wrong, it was far bigger. The fifth box, heavier in presence than in weight, confirmed that realization the moment it was touched, its density and deliberate organization signaling intention rather than coincidence. Opened at 10:48 a.m., it revealed neatly stacked binders arranged like archival artifacts, each labeled with date ranges mapping Meghan's entire arc within the royal household. Summer 2017 introduction period, autumn 2017 pre-engagement notes, 2018 public transition, 2019 internal correspondence, and 2020 exit negotiations, chapters of a story the public believed it already understood. Except this was not the palace's version, it was Meghan's, preserved as she experienced it. Inside the first binder were laminated press briefings, internal emails, and pages filled with Meghan's controlled handwritten annotations, phrases underlined, circled, starred, and punctuated with quiet but devastating comments such as "not accurate." This was said privately, not publicly, and why is the narrative shifting? The binder that halted the room, however, was labeled 2019 Communications Review, containing screenshots of private staff WhatsApp groups, Slack messages, internal media tone assessments, and correspondence addressing how to handle the growing tension around Meghan's coverage. Midway through, the team encountered a thread between two senior aides discussing strategic adjustments to her visibility. "She is drawing too much focus again. We need to redirect the narrative," one wrote, to which another replied, "We have options. Keep this quiet." The team lead murmured that this was the kind of language that triggered inquiries, but the most unsettling discovery came next. A folder of drafted palace statements never released, some correcting misinformation, some softening Meghan's image, some defending her outright, none of which had ever reached the public, who had instead been met with silence. The attorney closed the binder carefully, visibly shaken. In London, alarm had hardened into fear. Behind closed doors at Clarence House, King Charles met with senior advisors, his voice steady though his hands trembled as he absorbed what the binders, the letter, and the potential recordings represented. He had always believed the public could forgive almost anything except hypocrisy, and what lay in California suggested not lies, but calculated omissions, the kind that quietly fracture trust. Across Windsor, Princess Anne was briefed once more, listening with a stillness carved from stone. A woman who had defended the monarchy through decades of turbulence, now confronting evidence that threatened its most carefully guarded narrative. This was different from anything that had come before, a Trojan horse of truth prepared quietly, stored privately, and discovered by accident, and Princess Anne, ever the realist, grasped the implications instantly, cutting through the moment with characteristic bluntness when she said, "These are not souvenirs. These are safeguards." The words struck Charles deeply, because if Meghan had preserved these materials as protection, it meant she had entered the monarchy already believing she would one day need a defense, a realization as damning as it was heartbreaking. At Kensington Palace, William received a fuller briefing and, for the first time since the crisis began, paced the room, a habit inherited from Diana during moments of unbearable pressure, his greatest concern not the press or even the institution, but Harry, because if Meghan had kept these records, Harry either knew and helped shield documents capable of destabilizing the monarchy, or he did not know and she had built a parallel narrative without him. Both possibilities catastrophic for the fragile balance William had struggled to maintain. In California, however, Meghan's response was strikingly calm when the attorney delivered a second update, and she asked only one question. Had they opened the last box? When told there were 6 and only 5 had been examined, she exhaled softly and said, "The last one isn't mine, it's Harry's," a sentence that reframed the entire crisis from a Meghan story into a royal one, a succession story, a future of the monarchy story. The 6th box, smaller and tucked against the back wall, bore Harry's unmistakably rushed handwriting, "Private. Do not open without me," and when it was opened at 11:59 a.m., its contents told a story not of preservation, but of heartbreak. Scattered folders, dog-eared pages, smudged notes. The first labeled William, 2014 to 2020, containing years of messages between the brothers that moved from warmth and teasing to strain and distance. One page marked in Harry's hand with the words, "This is when it changed." Beneath it lay a folder labeled Father, holding unsent letters to Charles and replies that revealed a son struggling to be seen, and a father torn between love and duty, including one circled line that stopped the room cold. I can't be the spare if the role costs me myself. Further notes detailed meetings where Harry felt sidelined, decisions about Meghan made without him, and a growing sense that he was being managed rather than heard, until the final discovery silenced everyone. A plain envelope sealed with red wax, stamped with a single letter, unmistakably Diana's, not merely a relic, but a message tied to a mother, her sons, and wounds that had never healed. Across the ocean, the palace unraveled quietly. William absorbed the confirmation that Harry's correspondence had been preserved and showed grief rather than anger, understanding that whatever emerged would be Harry's truth in his own words. Charles responded not as king, but as father, realizing the California discovery was not an attack, but a record of what the monarchy had demanded of its sons, and where it had failed them. Anne, briefed last, named the moment with brutal clarity. This was not the scandal they feared, but the honesty. Back in California, Meghan stood alone in her kitchen, as the attorney told her Harry's box had been opened despite the warning, and she nodded with acceptance rather than surprise, whispering that the truth had always been destined to surface, because the crisis was no longer about documents but about legacy, fracture, and two brothers divided by time, pressure, and narratives neither fully controlled. With the boxes in California now standing like unsealed chapters of a family history, the monarchy could no longer contain or silence.